Hey everyone, Enamour here, and today I wanted to walk you through the sound design behind the lead in my track Say Hello, which is out now on Anjunadeep. So let's do a quick playthrough of some of that lead. Cool. So I was getting a lot of questions or comments about the little trill where it kind of skips between two notes on its way up. So I wanted to go over that as well as some uh, sort of lesser known methods for keeping a very repetitive melody line like this interesting and fresh. So before we get into the trill, obviously we all know about automation and like modulation. You can see down here there is a ton of automation for this part. Um, there's like over 16 different parameters that I'm changing throughout the song, and that sometimes there's these little micro changes where it's just a quick little turn of a knob, and other times it's these big sweeps uh, where the sound is slowly changing in one direction. So that's kind of the more common ways you can keep melody interesting. But then some things that a lot of people overlook are within the MIDI clip itself. So note length is a really big thing that can change the sound. So depending on your release times, your sustain amount, and your decay times, varying the note length can make a really big difference. So I'm going to just loop this one little section to show you. So I'm going to just change some of the note lengths. So you can see just with that, it's just enough to keep you on your toes and make it seem like it's not just this endlessly repeating loop. And you can see I have all these different separate MIDI clips, even though the loop is the same, and that's just because there's these little small note length changes throughout there. And then just going to that trill that I mentioned, if your synth has an option to switch between mono and poly modes, and I don't mean stereo width, I mean mono as in just a single voice can be played at one time. Sometimes you'll see it as poly, other times you'll see like legato. That basically just means if you hold two keys on the keyboard, will only one of them sound, or will it allow both to sound? So with mono, it only lets one of those sound, and therefore if we have two notes overlapping, it'll quickly switch between them rather than holding the first one and going to the second one. And when you have something so fast like this, like I think this is like 1/128th of a note, so it's imperceptible as like a rhythmic thing. It's more of just quickly tapping between two notes. You get that cool effect where it sort of like rotates downward. And we can enhance that. Maybe even add another one. So just a cool little trick. I think that really is what separated this melody and made it stand out a little bit, was it had that cute little trill that is something to latch onto throughout the entire song. So between that, varying the note lengths, and then all of this automation, you can see I'm doing cutoff frequency, the envelope depth of the filter. So that's how much this second envelope is applied to the filter every time a note is pressed, so that this is kind of snapping up and back down each time a note is pressed. That, along with basically all of the envelope settings, are being automated. Both attacks, both decays, both sustains, both release. And in this trimmer section, this is a Diva specific thing. You can change the variance of the cutoff, the envelope, the pulse width, and the glide. So I have that changing so that it's a bit more random on the cutoff and the envelope. and I have this detune amount turned up a little bit, so each voice uh, is slightly tuned differently, and that came with the result of having the entire melody line constantly changing and constantly sounding different. So if I played the same thing, twice and recorded it, both recordings would sound different. So I actually have 3 channels of different alt takes. You can see I've recorded the melody like a dozen times or something, and then I just picked the best ones and spliced them together for the final melody. So I definitely recommend that if you do have a ton of modulation in a synth, rather than just rebounce it every time you bounce your full track and have it sound different every time. I would bounce it to audio in the project, clip out the best parts, splice it together, and make a unique take that way. So hopefully that's helpful and inspiring. I have a full walkthrough of this track on my Patreon page, so definitely check that out. And the entire EP, this song, along with another called Inquiz and another called Hands That Feed, are out now on Anjunadeep. So go check them out.